Trump slaps India with crushing tariffs. And Modi hits back where it hurts. Billion-dollar US arms deals frozen, defense ties in limbo, and talk of a pivot to Moscow and Beijing.
Mr. Donald Trump!
Once billed as the century's friendship of equals, the Modi-Trump bond is cracking. And the world's largest democracy may be ready to walk away from America's embrace. Tensions between New Delhi and Washington have taken a fresh hit. India has reportedly put on hold plans to purchase advanced US military hardware, a move seen as the first tangible sign of displeasure after new tariffs imposed by US President Donald Trump pushed bilateral ties to their lowest point in decades. Reuters has reported, citing 3 Indian officials familiar with the matter, that discussions on India's planned purchases of Stryker combat vehicles from General Dynamics Land Systems and Javelin anti-tank missiles developed by Raytheon and Lockheed Martin have been paused following Washington's tariff decision. The American president has a history of reversing himself on tariffs, and India has said it remains actively engaged in discussions with Washington. One of the Indian officials told Reuters,
"The defense purchases could go ahead once India had clarity on tariffs and the direction of bilateral ties, but just not as soon as they were expected to. Written instructions had not been given to pause the purchases, and there was no forward movement, at least for now."
Another Indian official familiar with the matter told Reuters,
India had been planning to send Defense Minister Rajnath Singh to Washington in the coming weeks for an announcement on some of the purchases, but that trip has been canceled. Singh had also been planning to announce the purchase of 6 Boeing P-8I reconnaissance aircraft and support systems for the Indian Navy during his now-canceled trip. Talks over procuring the aircraft in a proposed $3.6 billion deal were at an advanced stage.
Trump and Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi had in February announced plans to pursue procurement and joint production of those items. However, senior Indian defense officials rejected the Reuters report, saying it was false and fabricated, and added that the various procurement deals are being processed as per extant procedures.
The news reports on India pausing the talks related to defense purchases with the US are false and fabricated. It is clarified that the various cases of procurement are being progressed as per extant procedures.
New Delhi, which has forged a close partnership with America in recent years, has said earlier that it is being unfairly targeted, and that Washington and its European allies continue to trade with Moscow when it is in their interest. Trump, on August 6th, imposed an additional 25% tariff on Indian goods as punishment for New Delhi's purchases of Russian oil, which he said meant the country was funding Russia's invasion of Ukraine. That raised the total duty on Indian exports to 50%, among the highest of any US trading partner. India's deepening of security relationship with the US, which is fueled by their shared strategic rivalry with China, was heralded by many US analysts as one of the key areas of foreign policy progress in the first Trump administration. According to the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute think tank, New Delhi is the world's second largest arms importer, and Russia has traditionally been its top supplier. India has in recent years, however, shifted to importing from Western powers like France, Israel, and the US. However, according to many Western analysts, the shift in suppliers was driven partly by constraints on Russia's ability to export arms, which it is utilizing heavily in its invasion of Ukraine. Some Russian weapons have also performed poorly on the battlefield. Indian officials told Reuters that New Delhi still maintains a balance and remains open to scaling back on oil imports from Russia and is open to making deals elsewhere, including the US.
The broader US-India defense partnership, which includes intelligence sharing and joint military exercises, continues without hiccups. India also remains open to scaling back on oil imports from Russia and is open to making deals elsewhere, including the US, if it can get similar prices. Trump's threats and rising anti-US nationalism in India have made it politically difficult for Modi to make the shift from Russia to the US.
Nonetheless, discounts on the landing cost of Russian oil have shrunk to the lowest since 2022. India's Petroleum Ministry did not speak on the matter. According to one of the Indian officials who spoke to Reuters, as well as a Russian source familiar with the talks, Moscow has in recent months been actively pitching Delhi on buying new defense technologies like its S-500 surface-to-air missile system. Reuters wrote that Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi is navigating one of the most challenging stretches of his 11 years in office. A contentious ceasefire with arch-enemy Pakistan and a diplomatic chill with the United States, despite much publicised rapport with President Donald Trump, has converged to test his leadership like never before. This week, the Trump administration's new tariff announcement on imports from India threw the bilateral relationship into deep disarray. Once describing each other as close friends, the Modi-Trump duo has exchanged words of disagreement. New Delhi-based political commentator Arati Jarath told Reuters,
"The Indo-US relations sort of revolved around the personalities of Donald Trump and Narendra Modi. So now when it's souring, Modi has no buffer at all. There is a fair amount of disappointment that this strong leader has not been able to show the kind of strength and muscularity that he claimed to have."
Modi, however, has begun to push back. The Indian Prime Minister said on August 7th that the country was ready to stand by its farmers at any cost, without referring to the tussle with the US on opening up the agricultural and dairy sectors to lower Trump's tariffs.
India will never compromise on the interests of its farmers, livestock rearers, and fishermen. And I am fully aware that I may have to pay a very heavy price personally, but I am prepared for it.
A day later, after a phone call with Russian President Putin, Modi wrote on X,
"Had a very good and detailed conversation with my friend President Putin. I thanked him for sharing the latest developments on Ukraine. We also reviewed the progress in our bilateral agenda and reaffirmed our commitment to further deepen the India-Russia special and privileged strategic partnership. I look forward to hosting President Putin in India later this year."
In other signs of pushback against Trump, Modi is planning to visit China in the coming weeks and is likely to meet President Xi Jinping as well as Russia's Vladimir Putin, suggesting a potential realignment in relations. Modi also spoke with Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva to discuss tariffs. The two countries, founding members of the BRICS bloc that Trump has criticized, are the two most affected by the US levies.